I always had this dream. I always had this vision of changing the world, right? And I was a big dreamer and I had big dreams and I had big, you know, big ambitions. And people would often say, oh, he's in this fantasy world. He's crazy. But I never ever lost hope. I never lost sight of that. So I always knew that I wanted to inspire people to follow their dreams. I always believed that if we could really, really live our dreams, we would truly be living our best life ever. And I did so, as I think you know, if you don't know, if you guys don't know, I did so through the entertainment industry. So I became an actor, and I became an actor very, very early on, and I was performing and doing all those cool things, which was really, really great. But what I didn't really give much priority and precedence to was that I had this other aspect of me that was really, really the true, true gift. Yes, I was talented. I was a talented actor. I was a talented singer and dancer, but I really had this intuition about me. I had this desire and this connection with the universe as a whole. That was something that you didn't really talk much about in the 80s, right? So especially as a child, the curiosity is not something that's normally fulfilled by parents when you ask them to, when you say, hey, is this the first time lifetime we've been here? I became very, very aware of past lives when I was a kid, and I would talk about them and everybody would go, oh, he's so creative. So it was that part of me, that was the aspect of me that I kept kind of quiet, but I always learned on the side. I studied on the side. I read books and went to the library and gathered all the kinds of information. I learned to meditate at a very early age, and I would do it all on my own. There was no meditation schools. Nobody was talking about meditation or yoga or anything like that then. And so that was always what was over here on this side. And as time progressed and as I got older, my career started to get into full effect, and I had some many, many ups and many, many downs. And the ups were really, really great, and the downs were really, really low. And through all of that, the middle point was my awareness of my consciousness, awareness of myself, awareness that there is something so much greater here that I haven't quite tapped into. And about 20 some odd years ago, I really began my spiritual journey. And my spiritual journey took me through all different kinds of trajectories. I started learning different religions, Buddhism and Taoism, and I also started to learn Kabbalah, and I spent 20 years learning Kabbalah and also teaching Kabbalah. Like, it became such a huge part of my life. And some of those aspects that kind of include all of that are past lives, reincarnation, and some of those more esoteric arts like tarot and all those kind of things, numerology. So those things were always things that really I used as little tools to guide me through my life. And what's really interesting is that, you know, when I was about 21 in New York City, I met a woman. I was going through like a horrible breakup, when you do when you're 21 and your heart is just melting. And I had heard about this psychic who was really well noted, and she was expensive, but she was really good, and she provided a lot of guidance. And so I went to see this woman, and she held my hands, and she looked me in the eyes, and she said, "You're a healer." She said, "And I was 21 years old. That's important for you to know." She says, "And until you really, really, really embrace that, until you embrace all of these gifts that are inside you that you're kind of hiding and unwilling to show the world, you're going to have these ups and downs." And she told me the minute that I would begin to receive and step into those gifts of being a healer, then my life would change. And once that would happen, everything would start to really kind of fall into place for me. She even told me, she said, you are seeking fame in the entertainment world, but you're going to find your fame in other ways. She says, you are going to change the world, but you're going to change the world not in the ways that you think you are. And at 21 years old, nobody really wants to hear that, you know. So she actually gave me a beautiful book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, and I started studying chakras, and I kept that book for a long time. But I'd keep it and I'd kind of like put it over in the corner because I was so focused on my acting career. And I went through all of the motions that we all go through in our lives, right? I got married. I wanted to have kids. I didn't have kids. I got married. I moved to the big city. I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. I did this. I did that. I did this and I did that. And finally, one day I realized, you know what? There is really so much more out here, and I don't know what it is, but I was willing to give it all up. And I had a teacher that was was very dear to me and very close to me. And she, not having known anything about my past, she looked at me and she said, "You know, you're a healer." And I said, "I've been told that before." And I remembered this beautiful psychic that I had met when I was 21. And she said, "You know, I've been studying these different modalities that I think will be a real contribution to you, maybe can help you figure out what that means to be a healer. What are those things?" And so she introduced me to a modality called theta healing. And theta healing is a technique that was downloaded by Vienna Steibel as a meditation technique that helps you to access the subconscious mind. When we access the subconscious mind, what we're doing is we're tapping into our beliefs. And the truth is that our beliefs are creating our reality. We all know that, right? You've heard that in some way, shape, or form, but many of you will say, well, but I don't understand that. I do my mantras and I say my prayers and I do this and I do that and things aren't changing. And a lot of the reasons is because our subconscious mind is really the kind of critter, the evil sabotager that actually is there to protect you. And it protects you based on past traumas and dramas and regrets and revenges that you hold back there. And so we don't get to those things, you see. And so learning the theta healing technique really, really set me free. I will tell you that. I started to really dive into the tools. I took all the classes and I became a teacher. And I remember the end of my first advanced class, we were doing a huge manifestation. And the teacher said, "Well, Daniel, what do you want to manifest?" And I said, "Well, I want to manifest this deal to go through." I was working on a Broadway musical at the time. And I was like, "I want to manifest that this deal goes through and we have these investors and blah, 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 blah." My teacher looked at me and he goes, "Why don't you manifest for some theta healing clients?" And I was like, and I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." So we do the manifestation and I go up to the creator, I go up to the seventh plane and I'm like, "You know what, creator, if you want me to do this work, you're going to have to show me. You're just going to have to bring the people to me that require my energy and allow me to be a channel, because I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to show up." And that day I went home. And as I went home, I met the person who would become my first client. And that day, in that moment, I said, "Okay, you know what?" And it was a very, very powerful, powerful session, a powerful moment. This woman said to me, she said, "You should tell other people about this." And I still felt I was practicing. So I started to put it out there a little bit more. And little by little, the word of mouth changed so much that my individual clients and my students became so great that I didn't have the time to do the auditions and go to the things that I was doing in the acting world. But I still resisted. I was like, "Nope, I have to do a movie. I have to do this. I have to do that." And so, truth be told, that it wasn't until, well, around 2000, I think it was the summer of 2016 or 17, I was in Israel with a bunch of my spiritual communities. And the same teacher that told me that I was a healer, she said, "Hey, have you heard about this thing called access consciousness?" I was like, "No, I've never heard of it." She says, "Well, there's a technique called access bars, and it's really, really powerful." She said, "I met somebody in Montana and they were doing it, and it's really powerful." She goes, "She lives here in Israel." She's like, "Do you want to take a class with her?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go take a class with her." So we went to take the access bars class in this woman's house. in the middle of the desert in Israel somewhere. And it was one of those things where my head was like, what happened here? And I came out of that class thinking there is really something here. I'm not really sure what it is here, but I know I want to keep playing with these tools. And so I started to keep playing with these access tools. I started to engage in this concept and this idea to ask, who does it belong to? Or how does it get any better? What else is possible? And I kept asking and using these tools and using these tools and using these tools. I started to see some immense changes in my life. And about that time is when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. And I had just started to travel to Shanghai. My partner, who I'd met actually on Instagram, very, very quote unquote randomly, was living in Shanghai. He's Mexican, but he's living in Shanghai. And so I started to travel to Shanghai. And when I got to Shanghai, he was really busy all of the time. So, I wanted to find ways to occupy myself. So I found a theta healing teacher. And there was a translator, Li Jie, who was so willing to come and allow me to be a part of it. And I remember I would just go to these theta healing classes that were all in Chinese and just hang out. And I started to get to know some of these people that were in this class. And I said, hey, if you'd like to take a class of mine, maybe I can get a translator and whatever. And I started to do some workshops and classes in China. And I was like, wow, I can actually do this. Like, this is actually a thing. So I came back to the States, and that's when COVID had really, really hit the US. And as you guys all know what happened when COVID happened, we all got sent to our rooms and got put in timeout for us to think about ourselves. But that was also, I have to say, one of the greatest blessings in my life, because I got so sick right away when the pandemic started to happen. And I got so sick that I worked on myself like every single day. I was like, how can this be? Like, what is this? What am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to do? And I kept seeing myself as being completely free, completely free, completely free. And I remember after I had recovered from that initial bout of COVID, I Googled where in the world I could go that I didn't need to have a COVID test. This was way before the vaccinations. This was when it was hard to get a test. Where could I go in the world that you didn't need a test? And the one place that felt really light to me was Istanbul, Turkey. And so I packed up my things and I went to Istanbul, and I began to really start to see my clients remotely. And as I started to see my clients remotely, I started to teach because everything was online. And little by little, Karen, everything started to really fall into place. And something really magical happened that year. Magical beyond magical. I can't even tell you how magical it was. And it was called the Access Consciousness Foundation class. And I took the foundation class in the middle of the pandemic in a beautiful house on the beach with 7 other people. We were all, sheltering in place and doing the foundation class. And I remember at the end of the class, I said, I know that I'm different. I know that my life is different. And wow, I've been working so hard when you don't really need to work so hard. I said, I really am going to put all of these tools to the test, and I'm going to give myself 6 months to become an access facilitator. For those of you who don't know, that is quite a feat. So I said, I'm going to put every single tool of access consciousness into place that I could become aware of, and I'm going to follow the energy. And so I went back to Istanbul. I met Dr. Dane here. I took some of his classes in Istanbul. And then little by little, I started to really see my life change. And the things that I had been asking for, it started to actualize with ease, with joy, with glory. And that became something that I started to look at and say, wow, who I am as a facilitator, as a teacher, as a healer, as a therapist, as who I am to other people is everything. I don't have to limit myself. I don't have to put myself into a box. I don't have to be just one thing here, one thing there. I really have the ability to be all things. And in January of 2021, I decided to put all my things into storage in New York City and hit the road because that was a dream of mine. A dream of mine was to live globally. And so I packed a few suitcases and I have been living a pretty nomadic life ever since then. And what is so beautiful is that in the same time that I left New York, I had a client of mine, and this is where I want to get to with the daily download. I had not a client, she wasn't a client, she was a student of mine in one of my theta healing classes. And we were doing, in my theta healing class, we were doing these downloads. And the student said to me, she said, Daniel, these downloads are so powerful. She says, wouldn't it be cool if you just gave downloads every single day? And I was like, oh, that would be cool. And she's like, you should do it. And I thought about it and I meditated on it and I asked the universe, I said, well, what does that look like? And I already have been meditating on my own every single day, and I said, well, basically it just means sharing your meditation with the world, right? So I instituted the daily download, and the daily download began in February of 2021. And we meet every single morning at 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:45 p.m. Manila time. And we gather together to do this very, very deep theta healing meditation. And the people that started to come to the session just exponentialized and exponentialized and exponentialized. And so we've been going every single day since February to 2021. And beyond that, we have actually expanded. We've expanded, and this time last May, we expanded into China, and we have over 300 people on the daily download in China that come every single day at 8:45 a.m. Beijing time. We also have live translation, live Chinese translation there. And on top of that, which is how I'm going to wrap it up for you guys, this universe is an ask and receive universe, period. Ask, receive. But we go, I want a pink elephant. And boom, does a pink elephant enter the room? No. And you go, oh, well, I guess this doesn't work. I guess the universe doesn't work for me. I guess I'm not worthy. I guess I'm not this. I guess I'm not that. I'm not powerful. I'm not this and I'm not that. Right? And then we start to create all the limitations. And then all of a sudden, 3-4 months down the road, you see a little girl who has a pink elephant on her shirt. And you go, oh, there's a pink elephant. The universe gave you a pink elephant. You asked for a pink elephant, you got a pink elephant. You just didn't get the pink elephant how you thought you were going to get the pink elephant. However, we receive everything we are asking for. And I have asked, since I began this program, I have asked for the daily download to be an international program. International. I ask for this program to be in every single corner of the globe. Why? Because when people come together to meditate, when people come together to set intention, then magic truly happens, not only in the lives of ourselves, but in the world around us. And my vision is that one day we will have 1 million people joining us from all corners of the globe at the same time to focus our intentions and focus our awareness and to create some lasting change in our lives. Now, ask and receive universe. Karen and I met each other through social media, through our dear friend Junaline, I think almost over a year, almost 2 years now, right, Karen? And we just started chatting and we did a beautiful live together. We had a lot of fun. And out of the blue, remember, because we think things happen out of the blue, Karen has invited me to Manila to do the 7 days of choice, which we're going to teach a bunch of access consciousness classes. We're going to have a lot of fun. I told Karen about the daily download. She goes, you know what? The Philippines would love that. I said, great, let's do it. Here we are, about to launch the daily download in the Philippines. Last week, I received another message out of the blue from a friend who I had worked with in Istanbul back in 2021. She said, "Hey, I think it's time to introduce you and the daily downloads to the Arabic community. How do you feel about coming to Saudi Arabia?" And this is one of my asks too. I had been asking to go into the Arab world and to the Middle East. And so I said, okay, how does it get any better? What else is truly possible? And so I have a meeting with her next week about bringing the daily downloads to the Middle East. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because it is that simple. It's that simple, guys. When we ask the questions, when we become present with the universe, when we connect, everything comes to us, and truly, truly can come to us with ease, joy, and glory if we're willing to let go of how we think things have to be in an opportunity to allow things to happen. My life, you asked me, Karen, in the beginning of this conversation, how do I live my best life? I live my best life with an ask every single day, whatever it is that would fulfill me, would make me happy, would inspire me. I ask every single morning, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to who? And the universe always responds. And yes, I have many, many, many plans. And yes, many, many of those plans never go the way that I think they're going to go. But man, they always are better every single time. And so that is how we truly, truly live in flow in the universe. That is how we create and choose and live the best life possible. It's when we get out of the way and we go, hey, universe. There's a beautiful word in Hebrew. It's called hineni. And hineni means here I am. And it's an amazing, amazing, the energy behind hineni is, when you have an opportunity, a lot of us go, well, that sounds like fun. Let me make sure I have enough money. Let me make sure I have enough energy. Make sure that everybody knows and everything is taken care of. And then we just, come on, guys. Haneni means, hey, you know what? Okay, let's go. Let's do it. Right? And so when we jump, that's when the magic happens. Don't doubt.